that we are done with the workings. Now answer the question. This question is calculate break even in quantity. So this question. Break even point. This is in quantity. So this is going to be fixed costs divided by contribution per unit. So we know that the figure which we calculated for fixed cost is 1,156,800 divided by contribution per unit. We also calculated that as 2,240. Okay. So when we divide that into that, should be able to get 650 point 86 units. Now, since they are units, we can round them off. So we say, so we're going to have 6 650 units. Okay, so we are done with the first question. Question number 2 is 4. A. Question number 2 has asked us to calculate break even in value. Break even point in value. So breaking even in value, we simply multiply the number of units that we have calculated the units multiply them times the selling price. So our selling price is given in the question as 8,000. So we multiply 650 units times 8,000. What will be our break-even point value? The value we're going to have something like 5 million 200,000. Okay, so we are done with question A. We go to question B. So what is question B asking us to do? Question B is asking us to calculate the margin of safety in units and in percentage form. So we start with margin of safety in units. So the question is requesting us to calculate the margin of safety So we've got two parts. The first part, we need to calculate margin of safety in units. Okay, so let's continue. So we're on margin of safety. Margin of safety. Okay, so the first part is margin of safety in units. So in units, margin of safety in units is calculated by subtracting break-even points from the budgeted sales level. So let me write the formula here. Very important. Note that margin of safety is calculated by subtracting break-even point units from the budgeted sales units. So budgeted sales units so budgeted sales so as we are saying, let's now calculate the part B, which is margin of safety. So margin of safety Okay, so under margin of safety, we are supposed to calculate one in units. So margin of safety in units is calculated as follows: budgeted sales quantity or volume or units less or minus budgeted break even points quantity, which we have just calculated under one. Okay, so these figures. Okay, so I think we didn't didn't do the workings for budgeted sales in the first video. So we required to get back to the question. I show you where budgeted sales are going to be taken from. So these are the budgeted units or quantity. This column, this row quantity 50, 60, 70, 80, 88, 90, 90, 100 up to December. So when we add these figures, we'll be able to get something like 1,020. So we are talking about this figure, adding them up, we'll be able to get 1,000. So these figures, total them up, your answer should be something like should be able to get 1,000. 1,020. Okay, so let's go back to the whiteboard. Okay, so our budgeted sales were 1,020 and 20 units minus the budgeted, minus the break-even point units, which we have just, we are just from calculating, and that was 650 units. So if you subtract 650 from 1,020 units, you'll be able to get something like 370 units. 370 units. So these are the units at which gives us margin of safety. Okay, meaning that we are safe if we are able to produce these units and above, then we are safe as a company. We are not going to fall in a trap. We are not going to make losses. We are not making losses at this level. Why? Because we are falling within the margin of safety. But if we are selling less than 370 units, then there's a possibility that we are going to be making losses as a company, because the break-even point units are 650. So from 650 going up, we should be making 650 units plus or over 650 units, because at 650 units, that is our break-even point, meaning that here we are neither making a profit or a loss. So if we are to make a profit, we should make more than 650. Okay. So if we are making 650 units plus extra units, which are within the 370, it can either be 200, it can either be 150. It means at that level, we are okay, we are able to make a profit, we are making a profit. But if we make less than 370, it means we'll start moving below the break-even point, which is 650. So the idea is that we make more than 650 units. First of all, we have to we have to sell 650 units and over. Anything less than 650, we are not safe. So we can only be safe if we are able to sell 650 units and over that figure. So that's what it means. That's why we are saying these units above 650, these units are our margin of safety. So it doesn't matter whether they are 50, they are 20, as long as they are above 650, we are recording a profit. That's level. So that's how we can interpret that figure that we have just calculated. So let's do the last part under margin of safety, where we are requested now to calculate or to express the margin of safety in percentage. So in percentage, this is how it is going to just use a symbol for percentage. Okay, so in percentage, the margin of safety is given as follows by the following formula. So here on top, we have the margin of safety margin of safety units, these are units, divided by budgeted sales units or sales level or volume. So budgeted over or divided by budgeted sales. So this is quantity or volume. In here, it's quantity. Then we multiply, since we want to express margin of safety in percentage, so we need to multiply the answer, whatever we calculate, multiply by 100%, which is going to be our margin of safety in terms of the units we calculated already as 370, sorry. So we've got 370 units, then divide by the budgeted sales units we calculated as 1020 units, multiplied by 100%. So what is going to be our answer? So when you divide that and multiply by 100, should be able to get 86%. 0.3. It's 6.3%. Six 6.3%. Okay, so this is our okay. So this is how we calculate, or this is how we can express the margin of safety. In percentage form. Okay. Next question is C. So question C is asking us to calculate the quantity which is required, the quantity which we are required to sell in order for us to make it, to meet or to make a target profit of 3 million. So we are supposed to calculate the required quantity so the required quantity required quantity to make the target profit, or to meet or to make the target profit of 3 million. Okay, that is the formula for calculating the required quantity required to make the target profit. So the formula for required quantity to make a particular target profit is given as follows: fixed costs. So fixed costs, or abbreviate, plus the target profit okay. Then we divide the contribution a unit. Okay. Okay, so our fixed costs, we have already calculated our fixed cost figure as 1,456,000 and 800 kwacha plus the target profit. What is our target profit? We are given the target profit as 3 million. So 3 million divided by so we are dividing by the contribution per unit. So we calculated the contribution per unit. Remember, it was 2240. So now we can divide that. What do we get? We should be able to get something like these are units. Remember, 1,989.6. So since they are units, we can round them off to 1,990. So these are the units. Shanich. So for us to make a target profit of 3 million kwacha, we are supposed to sell 1,990 units. Below that, we will not be able to meet that target. So if we are to meet the target of the profit given as 3 million, those are the units that we need to sell. That's the meaning of this part of the question. The last question or the last part, not the last, this is the last part, part number 4. Okay, now let's do, so this one is also very interesting. This is where now we are saying what happens when we make changes on the variables. So what are the variables? Variables are the sales volume, the variable costs, either per unit or variable cost, the total variable cost, the fixed costs. If we make any adjustment to these costs, we need to understand, or we need to know the impact or the effect that we are going to see to have on the profit, on our profit. So this is the question. This is what the question is all about. So we are going to look at the question. So this is the part D. Okay, part D. So part D is asking us to calculate the break-even point where we are going to have the following. So I want us to go back to the question. So when we read the question, let's read the question. Question says calculate the break-even point in quantity and the target quantity of solar irrigation pumps that the company should sell in order to make a profit of 3 million. In the following, if the following changes were made to the budget at once, okay, or other items remain unchanged. So these are the only items that are changing. So change number 1, we are increasing the selling price per unit by 5%. Change number 2, we are increasing material cost per unit by 3%. Change number 3, we are increasing labor costs by 6%. Then we are cutting, or we are removing selling expenses. We are removing completely in full. Then we are cutting administration expenses by 2%. So these are the changes. So let's do these changes. Let's do these workings. We adjust, we make the necessary adjustments. And then at the end, we are going to calculate the break-even point in quantity so that we see and require the quantity to make the profit, so that we see the effect on the break-even point quantity. Also the effect on the quantity that we will need now this time around to sell in order to make a target profit of 3 million. Okay, so we are going to do some workings. Go back to the whiteboard. Let's do some workings for G. So we're going to do the workings here. Workings, we take into account the changes in the variables, on the variables. So working number 1, we'll do from the question, we want to know the new selling price. So our new selling price is going to be, so selling price is going to be, so the current selling price, then we multiply or we increase it by 5%. So our current selling price was how much? 8,000. 8,000 kwacha per unit. So we are increasing it by 5%. So the easiest or the fastest way of inflating or increasing figures by percentage is simply by doing this. So you say 1.05. So the one is 100% and 5%. We add them together, we are going to have 1.05. So what it means here is that 800 is at 800,000, sorry, 8,000 kwacha per unit is at 100%. So now we want to know at how much it is going to be if we want to raise it to 105%. So if you say 105%, for instance, you write 105%, it means this is what we are, what's that, that change is talking about. We are increasing from 100% to 105. We are increasing by 5%. So it will be 100 plus 5, which is 105. So if we now want to convert into an inflating factor, which I have written here, we simply divide by 100. So when you divide 100 into 105, the answer is going to be 1.05. So this is what we are doing. This is how we can inflate figures given a percentage. Okay. So 8,000 times 1.05, you should be able to get, So our new selling price is going to be 8,400 kwacha per unit. So 8,400 kwacha per unit. Okay, so let's go to working number 2. So working number 2 is about also the increase on material cost per unit. So material cost per unit. If it is increased by 3%, what will happen? So we are increasing material by 3%. So we'll do the same. Material cost per unit. Let's go to the question. So when you go to the question, we realize that material cost per unit is a constant, it's supposed to be a constant figure. So material cost per unit, it is the material cost, the total material cost is, meaning that they were whatever material cost per unit was multiplied by these quantities, the sales quantities, to get 200. So if you want to know the material cost per unit, we simply divide these quantities into the cost, the total cost that we are given in terms of material cost. So if we divide 50 into 200, we are going to get something like 400. So since it's this one, we expect it to be a constant value, meaning that it has to be the same throughout the period, throughout the months, from January to December. So you can pick any month and divide the quantity into the material cost, the total material cost. I'm sure you'll be able to find the 400. Look at, this is 100 units. If you divide 100 into 400,000, you cancel the zeros, should be able to have 4,000 material cost per unit. Even here, it's the same. Even here, it is the same. Divide 50 into 200,000, you have to get something like 4,000. So it is constant. The variable cost, as one of the assumption of break-even point, the assumption is that the variable cost per unit is supposed to be constant. So it is constant throughout the period or months up to December, from January to December. So let's get back to the question or to the workings. So if we get back to the workings, we agree that the variable cost, the material cost per unit is going to be 4,000 per unit. So we are inflating, or we are increasing this cost by 3%. So since we are increasing by 3%, we simply multiply by 1.03. 1.03%. Okay, and what are we going to get? We should be able to get, to multiply that, to inflate that. Our new material cost per unit is going to be 4,120. So our new material cost per unit is going to be 4,120 kwacha per unit. Okay, let's quickly do our number 3 adjustment. We are adjusting now the labor cost per unit. So labor costs So labor cost. Labor cost per unit as well. We are increasing at how much percentage? We are increasing at 6%. So we are inflating at 6%. Okay, so we go back to the question, we do the same thing. So our labor cost, this is also a variable cost. So the same concept, we apply the same concept. So we simply divide 50 into 80,000. How much are we going to get? So we should be able to get 1,600. If you try on February, April, May, all these months, you still be able to get 1,600. Look here, 600 units divided into 160,000. You'll be able to get 1,600 kwacha per unit. So it is also constant throughout the period because it fulfills the assumption of break-even point that all the variable costs, yeah, always supposed to be constant throughout the period. Okay, so we go back to the workings. So we have agreed that our new labor cost per unit is 1,000. Sorry, the current labor cost per unit is 1,600. So now we want to increase it by 6%. So we're increasing by 6%, meaning that 1.06 inflation factor. So when we multiply that, we'll be able to get something like 1,696. Okay, so this is our new labor cost per unit. We have increased it from 616 to 1,696. And number 4, change on the variables. It's on the selling price. Sorry, the selling expenses. So this one, so the selling expenses, we are told that we are supposed to remove. Okay, we are supposed to remove all the selling expenses from January to December. So we can't just remove what we don't know. So we need to know how much in total these selling expenses are. Then we will remove it when because these are fixed costs. Let's go to the question. So selling expenses, where is it? It is under the fixed costs. It is a fixed cost. Have you seen it here? So this is the selling expenses. These are the selling expenses. And if they are fixed, you look here from January to December, they are at 10,000. 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. So meaning that these are fixed costs. So now we need to know the total for the year. So if for the month is 10, then we just multiply by the 12. So our total selling expenses will be 120. Okay. So our total selling expenses currently they are at 120,000, and we have been told to remove. So since they are falling under fixed costs expenses, we are supposed to remove this from the fixed cost. So we are going to have new figure for fixed cost. So our fixed costs, our new fixed cost figure is going to be the current fixed cost less 120 or less the selling so we are lessing the selling expenses. So we are removing the selling expenses. So our new fixed cost will be our current fixed cost, which we had already calculated, was 1,456. 800. We remove 120. So 120,000 we are removing. So if we remove 120, how much are we going to remain with as fixed cost? So our new fixed cost figure is going to be 1,200,000. So it's going to be so let's try to subtract this. One, 4, 5, 6, 8, 0, 0, minus 120. Okay, so our new figure for the fixed costs is going to be 1,336,800. Kwacha. Okay. So this is our new fixed cost. Finally, let's do our last adjustment, number 5. So number 5 is on administration expenses. Administration expenses to be cut by 2%. So administration expenses to be cut by 2%. So our administration, okay, admin expenses cutting by 2%. So we are cutting at 2%. Okay, so first you need to know the current administration. Then when we know the current, we should do cut by 2%. So the current admin expenses multiply. So we are going to cut by 2%. So if we are to cut by 2%, meaning that this time around they will not be at 100%, they will be at less than by 2%. So if there will be a less by 2%, meaning that it's 100 minus 2%. So this time we'll multiply by 0.98. We are cutting by 2%. So we remove 2% from 100%. Okay. So we need to know the current administration expenses. So let's go to the question. So our question on administration. So these are the administration expenses, and they are also fixed in nature. If you can see throughout, we have got the same amount, 105,000 from January to December. So we just simply multiply by 12 to get total administration expenses. So let's go back to our working. So the current administration expenses okay. So let's continue. Well, we ended. So we are still looking at administration. Administration expenses. This is number 5. We are cutting at 2%. So we are saying that we need to know the current admin expenses. Then we multiply by the okay, so we pick up from where we ended. We are looking at administration expenses. Admin we are saying we are now cutting by 2%. We are reducing the administration by 2%. So we need to know the current total. So we need to know the current admin expenses. We multiply by the factor. This time it's a deduction. So the factor is going to be 0.98. Sorry. So this time we are cutting. So it will be 100 minus 2. We're not charging, but we will subtract 100 minus 2. So if we remove 2% from 100, we will be at 98%. So we are cutting the administration expenses by 2 back to 98%. So this is what we are doing. So if we go to the question, we need to know how much the total for administration expenses. So this is also a fixed cost, and it is fixed throughout the period. It is also fulfilling the assumption of break-even analysis, which states that fixed costs, they are fixed. They they are fixed throughout the period that we are looking at. So from January to December, they are fixed. So the month, if you check, it is 105 throughout all the months up to December. So you simply multiply 105 times 12, then we'll be able to know our total administration expenses. So let's get back to the board. So meaning that our current administration expenses, which is currently at 105, we multiply, we reduce now by 2%. So we multiply by 0.98. So when you multiply 105,000 times 98% or 0.9%, what are we talking about? So our new administration expenses will be 1 million in total. This is now in total. So it will be 1 million. So 1 million. 1,234,800. Okay. So admin, so our new admin expenses said it is going to be 105 divided by 0.98%. So our new figure is going to be 1,034,800. Okay. Sorry, this is the messed up everything. This network is not doing us good. So we still wanted to know this is by 12 months. So by 12 months, want to know how much the total administration expenses. So this is the figure we integrated. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 800. This is the total, the current administration expenses. So we are saying let's reduce it by 2%. So if we are to reduce it by 2%, we multiply by 0.98%. 0.98. So giving us what will be our new administration. So our new administration expense is going to be, just calculate that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And rate multiply by 0.098. Okay, so our new administration expense is going to reduce from that figure to 1,210,000. $104. So this is our new administration expenses. So now we need to know our new fixed cost. So new fixed cost, new FC is going to be so the current fixed cost was at 1,456. 800. So now okay, we want to so we had the under fixed costs, we had the changes, we had selling costs which were to be removed, and the figure to be removed was calculated as 120. The total 10 times the 12 months, we got 120. So the 120, we are supposed to remove it. 120,000. Then for administration, we didn't finish. So for administration, now what we need to do here, this is the total administration. So the question is how much has been removed. So let's do calculating here. So that this one will remain within the total fixed cost. So how much has been removed? How do we find that? You would say the current 1,234,800 less 1,210 104. Then what is the 2% here? We are just interested with the 2%. In fact, we should have done a shortcut than what we are doing here. So what's the difference here when we subtract? So this one plus the current, which is 134,800, it will give us that much. 24. So what we are removing is 24,696. 24,696. Okay, so the other option, the other way we should have done it, instead of wasting a lot of time, should have just said $105 times 0.02, which is 2%, times 12 months. It was going to be faster. So yeah, we want to know the deduction. So if we multiply this by this by this, just use my calculator and see if you are going to get the same figure. So 105 105 105 105 0.2 times 12 months. Getting different figures. I don't know, let's take a calculator. Let me do it for the last time. 105 0 0 0 2. Yeah, so didn't type properly. So that one we multiply by 12 months. So we'll be able to get 25 200. Fortunately, we are getting different figures, but the concept, the idea is just the same. But I think this is what we have done just now is quick and it's faster. So we just adopt this. So we will subtract this one instead of this one. So we say minus C 25 200. Okay, so 1.456800 minus 120 minus 25. How much are we going to have as our new fixed cost? So let's do it on the calculator. So 1.45680 minus 120 minus 25 200. So our new fixed cost is going to be 1,311,000 how much? 600. So this is going to be our new fixed cost. Okay, so we proceed. Now we can now calculate the break-even point in quantity and the units required to make a target profit of 3 million. So let's go to the next page. So G1, we are calculating the break-even point in quantity, considering the new changes that have occurred. So what's the formula? As usual, the formula is fixed cost over contribution per unit. Okay, so our new fixed cost figure, as we have just calculated, is 1.311,600 over, we also calculated our did we calculate our new contribution per unit? We didn't, so we are going to have a working here, a working for contribution per unit. So our new contribution per unit is going to be, as we know, contribution per unit is given by selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. Okay, so we are already done our new selling price after increasing it by, we're increasing it by 5%. So our new selling price in this regard is 8,400. Okay, so we less the variable cost per unit. So we've got how many types of variable cost per unit? We've got about 3 types. The first one being material cost per unit, then labor, and the last one was other expenses. Let me just confirm. So for variable costs, we have 3 types of variable costs. The first one is this one, you can see it, material, labor, and expenses. Okay. Okay, so we already calculated for labor and material, but we don't know for expenses. So let's also try to compute so that we know how much these expenses are costing us per unit. So in the same vein, we divide the quantity into these costs. So if we divide 50 into 8,000, how much are we talking about? Should be able to get, okay, with my calculator. So 8,000, for example, we divide 50. So our selling, our other expenses per unit is 160. These are variable expenses, and we expect them to be constant throughout the period. So we can try, even if we try another month, for example, in December, we divide 100 into 16,000, we still get 160. So it is still constant throughout the period. So let's get back to the question. So meaning that we already calculated, I think, for material and for labor. So just pick the figures the way they are. So for material, we calculated the new figure was, just go to the workings, you find it there. It was 4,120 minus the other one was the labor cost per unit. We also calculated as 1,696. Then we less the last one we have just been calculating, 160. Okay. So if we less these from the selling price, how much are we going to get? So let's do it. 84 minus 420 minus 160. Okay, so our new setting, our new, okay, I think I didn't do the calculation properly. Just let me just go through it again. So we are saying 8,400 less 4,020 less 1,696. Okay. Again, less 160. Okay, so that one 24, correct. So here our contribution per unit is 24, 424, yes. So this is our contribution per unit. So we divide this now, this into the fixed costs. So 2,424. So this is going to give us now how much? So this is going to give us how much? We divide that into that. So we expect to find how many units. So the total units will be 541. These are the units. So these are the break-even points, units that we need to produce in order for us to break even. Remember, at break-even point, you are either making profit or loss. So this is the number of units we need in order to break even. So quickly, let's do the last part, which is the required quantity to make target profit of 3 million. So the required quantity now will be required quantity to make 3 million profit. So the formula, as usual, it's fixed costs plus target profit over contribution per unit. So our fixed costs, we calculated already. The figure for fixed cost is 0.311 600 so this is 1,311,600 plus the target profit is not changing, still at 3 million. So 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 3 million. Then we divide the contribution per unit, which we have just calculated as 2424. Okay, so when we divide that, we should be able to get something like, okay, these are units, sorry. So we are supposed to get 1,799 units. Okay, so so this is the required units to sell, which we need to sell in order for us to make a target profit of 3 million. So my students, this is how you can tackle this question. It's not very complicated as long as you understand and you know the formulas, which formula to use. You understand the concept, you understand, you are able to interpret the calculations, then you're home and dry. So the most important thing for us is to know what we are doing. It's not just to calculate break-even point, as much as it involves a lot of calculations, but you are supposed to be able to explain, and it is where you get more marks by explaining. You should be able to explain what these figures mean. So this is how our profit or our quantity, our break-even quantity units can be affected, can change when we change certain variables. Okay. So for instance, before we change, we had to make changes to our variables. Break-even point was at how much? The units were about 6,050. Sorry, they were about 650. But now, because of the changes we have done, we have 541 units. Why? Because we have changed, we have made those changes to the variables, and the number of units have also reduced. In the same manner, the required quantity to make a target profit of 3 million, I think if I remember very well, we had earlier calculated as 1,990, but we have reduced now to 1,779. Why? Because of the variables that we have affected. We have made some increments, we have made some reduction in the variables. No wonder these figures are also affected. But the profit, since we have the same target as 3 million, it is not going to change. So that's how these changes can affect the break-even point units, and as well as the required quantity to make a target profit. So I think here we end here. If there are any other questions that you have, you can still ask as we proceed with our revisions. Always available for you to respond to all your queries, all your questions that you may have, any concern that you may have, even as you prepare for your exams. Thank you so much.